let's go to college football week 2 takeaways right now. And the SEC is down. Is your big takeaway? Is it really down, or was it just an off week? How certain do you feel that the SEC is down?
I'm pretty certain it's just down. Again, after Georgia, I talk about neutral site games. If Alabama's playing Penn State, Michigan, or Ohio State, there's a chance all three of those teams is favored over Alabama, and they're second in my SEC power rankings right now. And so that's how down we're talking about the SEC being right now. And again, it's because of the quarterback play. This is just one of those random years. Look, long-term longevity, the SEC is the best conference, but every 20 years or so, you just have a year where the league just every team is in a mode where they're not where they need to be. This reminds me of 2005 SEC that year when I believe Georgia won the SEC title with 2 losses and then got the break beat off of them by Virginia or West Virginia in the Sugar Bowl. Kind of reminds me of that year a little bit.
Yep.
So I think it's just down.
Yep, that's fair. Other takeaways that you pull from the weekend, and you can read Caleb's column on offthehooksports.com.
Oh, early 2000s blue bloods outside of the SEC are back. Florida State, Texas, USC, Ohio State, Miami all look like top 10 teams. I named 4 of the top 5 right there, and I just named every national champion from 2001 to 2005, and which is pretty impressive. For those who are interested, Tennessee dropped to number 11 in the AP poll, stayed number 9 in the coaches poll. So,
what do you make of that? By the way, I put more credence in the AP poll because I think the coaches poll are done by sports information directors.
Yeah, I do too. I think they, like myself, couldn't look past how they struggle with Austin Peay. And there are teams that have pulled out more quality wins. Look, I'm going to get to my top 10 in a second to show you guys. I don't think when you do a top 10 based on style points, schedule strength, and record, Tennessee technically doesn't have a case to be top 20 right now. That doesn't mean they're not one of the 20 best teams, but I do my top 20 and top 10 based on resume and nothing else. And
yep.
So that's
what you should do. And it should be very, very fluid in, pardon me, the early weeks. It should, I mean, you could have somebody go from not one probably, but 5 to 25, I believe. Because your preseason should be very fluid where you move people around.
I throw preseason out the window the minute week 1 happens.
Yeah. And I have no problem with Tennessee dropping to 11. Again, they control their own destiny. So I have no problem with the AP voters looking at Tennessee and saying, hey, that was a very lackluster performance against Austin Peay. So I get that, but they're going to bounce right back up into the top 10 if they beat Florida. And also, offense, a huge question in the SEC and Big Ten. We're coming off a year in which Tennessee and Ohio State were very, very good offensively. But you say a huge question in the SEC and Big Ten, not to just single 2 teams out, but why do you think an offense in general is a huge question, Caleb?
Well, so we touched on the SEC in the last one, so we know that one. I'll move over to the Big Ten. Iowa is still in the Big Ten. Michigan plays very ball control as it is. So the real standout here is that Ohio State's offense is a big question. Kyle McCord's an issue. It hasn't shown yet because they haven't played anybody. Kyle McCord's going to be a problem for them because I don't think he is. I think after, a run of pretty good quarterbacks at Ohio State that were great there and didn't work out in the NFL, you might have somebody that won't work out in the college level in Kyle McCord.
And then prime time, looking legit. And another win for the Buffs, now 2-0. And wow, oh, wow. He reminds me in a lot of ways of Josh Heupel. The difference being is that Heupel is a better offensive mind and a better offensive coach, and he's not outspoken. But assembling talent, having that direction, I think is pretty significant, and a similarity between the two. I just am blown away by how quickly they're winning at Colorado. And listen, I mean, that they could be a factor headed forward. And you also mentioned your Heisman race. You have Travis Hunter, number 1, Shedeur Sanders of Colorado, number 2, followed by Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., and Sam Hartman of Notre Dame. So at this point, my vote, I would have to give it to Shedeur Sanders, but nobody wins the Heisman in September.
No, no one does. I'm still going Travis Hunter because he still actually had another 70 yards receiving while playing defensive back over the weekend. This isn't like Charles Woodson in 97 where, you know, they occasionally brought in Charles Woodson on the other side. No, Travis Hunter's playing full-time on both sides of the ball, which I've never seen that before and at the college level. And if he does this the whole year, I don't know if he can, but if he does it the whole year and he's this productive, I can't not give him the Heisman.
No. I see your argument, but if I had to pick somebody right now, it would be Sanders. And then the top 10 in college football playoff outlook, you've got Texas at number 1, Florida State number 2, Colorado 3, Duke 4. What are you talking about? Auburn 5, Miami 6, Utah 7, Miami 8, Ole Miss.
That was an accident. I meant to write Mississippi State. I will correct that.
Okay, gotcha. I said Miami twice. Okay, so we'll get that fixed. But you don't have Georgia in the top 10. Is that based off our criteria earlier that ours is fluid and they could make it up there?
Yeah, these aren't power rankings. These are top 10 is based on your resume. Georgia hadn't beaten anybody yet. And whatever you want to say about the teams I named, they've all beaten Power 5 schools. Colorado has beaten 2 Power 5 schools in back-to-back weeks. Now, you can question Nebraska. You can question TCU, but that's a story for another day. And so Ole Miss hasn't beaten one technically, but Tulane is basically a Power 5 school. Tulane's a more quality win than Virginia is. So I think, yeah, right now Georgia has – do I think Georgia is the best team in the country right now? Yes. Do they have the best resume through 2 weeks? No. Who have they beaten?
That's fair. How many SEC teams would trade their head coach for Deion Sanders today?
That's a great question. So I think Florida is obvious. Florida is like, Florida's already calling Deion as we speak.
I mean, I'm going to listen. If I'm Florida, I'm calling 2 people when this whole Billy Napier thing goes south, and it's going to. I'm calling Lane Kiffin and Deion Sanders. It's only 2 people I'm calling, and one of them is going to say yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And Lane would say yes. Lane would say yes. I don't know if Deion would with the Florida State ties, but remember
Deion resents Florida State for not hiring him.
Yeah, well, right, and Deion's also a businessman, so if he thinks there's an opportunity to win at Florida, given that in-state talent base, which he knows so well, he's going to do that. And so you think about it, how many SEC teams would trade their head coach for Deion Sanders? And it's brought to you by our friends at Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Look, I have LASIK, no glasses, no contacts. I love it. Local doctors that can address cataract and LASIK procedure. Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. That is easy to find at ccteyes.com, ccteyes.com. And for your routine examinations, they also have their local locations that can take care of you. So how many teams would trade for Deion Sanders today?
Okay, so we got Florida. I think we got Texas A&M. Deion belongs at Texas A&M. That's Dallas area. That would just be, imagine Deion at A&M.
That would be great.
I think Oklahoma. I think there's some issues with Brent Venables. People were excited after week 1, but that's because he beat Butch Jones.
Oh, wait, I was just going to SEC teams. Oh, well,
they're going to be in the SEC.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So Texas wouldn't trade him. Missouri and Vanderbilt, obviously. Ask by Smoky Mountain Red, would Deion jump that quick, and what is his buyout? He had so much leverage that I would be interested to find that out, but I bet it's not much for him to get out of that. Would he jump that quick? Yeah, because his son's eligible for the draft next year, right?
I think so.
Okay, so
he will just take his son with him to Florida if he goes there and just win there.
In reality, yeah. I mean, you could. And with NIL money, could Shedeur Sanders say, I'm really enjoying the college experience, so I might stay my full 5 years? When in reality, he's probably worthy of a 3-and-out type of guy based off what I've seen. But Yeah. So who else? Who would? Let's make it easier. Who wouldn't? Who
Okay,
wouldn't?
So Tennessee and Georgia wouldn't. They're both very happy with their situation.
Agreed. South Carolina wouldn't because they like Shane Beamer, even though I would if I were their athletic director.
Okay, South Carolina wouldn't. I don't think Kentucky would because they like Mark Stoops and they should like Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops has done an amazing job there.
I agree. And remember, an athletic director would have to turn the keys over to Deion Sanders. If he says he wants something done, it has to be done tomorrow, not next week. If he wants a facility built or something like that, you're going to have to move quickly. A lot of ADs aren't okay with that. Mizzou would obviously,
particularly at Kentucky when they want to be a basketball school. So
yeah, that would not work well at Kentucky. So I think Stoops, Beamer, Heupel, Smart. What about Alabama with Nick Saban getting up there?
But are they going to force Nick Saban out? Are they really going to say, "Hey, Nick, thanks, but no thanks"?
No, but you wonder. What about Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin? Because Lane has tried to get out of there before. Would Ole Miss boosters say, let's go with this Sanders cat? I'm going to say no because I think Deion would realize he would have the same glass ceiling of NIL money that Lane has currently in Oxford. So I'll say no. Somebody on the message board said LSU. And no, I don't think that LSU would trade Brian Kelly for anybody. So that would be one not trade. So basically, I think we're at Heupel, Saban, Kelly, Stoops, Beamer, and Smart. Those are the only ones that I think Tennessee wouldn't. I'm sorry, that the SEC teams wouldn't trade for.
Auburn, Hugh Freeze. I think Auburn's pretty high on Hugh Freeze. Whatever you think of Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. There you go.
Hugh Freeze is an amazing coach.
Now, I want to clarify something too. I don't think Billy Napier is going to be fired after this year, but I think it's going to go south eventually. Just like I felt Eli Drinkwitz was going to go south this time last year. I think it will go south. So I'm not talking about this year because Smoky Mountain Red, I mentioned the buyout. Billy Napier is supposedly like $51 million. So I'm not saying it happens this year, but I'm saying if there is a change, that's the first guy I call. Oh, Arkansas loves Sam Pittman. So, and I think Deion Sanders would say there's a glass ceiling like Ole Miss at as far as NIL money at Arkansas. So I wouldn't see him going there. Although if Walmart got really involved there in nearby Bentonville, right next to Fayetteville, let's face it. I mean, they could change Arkansas's football program.
They really could. They could throw so much money. The
median income in Bentonville, which is just outside of Fayetteville, where Walmart is housed and the corporate offices are, is like $125,000, and you're in the middle of nowhere where everything's cheap. So I don't know if they wanted to throw some NIL money around, maybe there's more than I think, but I haven't seen much of it to this point. That could be Sam Pittman, an old school guy saying, I like to raise people up through the program as opposed to chasing transfers and spending NIL money. I'm not sure.
Don't sleep on this with Arkansas. If Texas A&M is falling apart, and I believe they are with Jimbo Fisher, if Oklahoma is not going to cut, if Brent Venables doesn't cut it at Oklahoma, and I think you and I both don't have faith in Brent Venables to cut it long-term at Oklahoma, well, Arkansas all of a sudden can be the school that goes in and gets some of those Texas recruits and competes with Texas. There's always like which school near Texas competes with Texas for Texas recruits. Arkansas might be the second biggest player in the state of Texas for those recruits behind the Longhorns in about a year.